All right, and welcome in to a very special interview edition of the PWTorch Fireside Chat. I'm PWTorch Assistant Editor Zack Heydorn, and with me today is former WWE star, AEW star, starred on MTV's The Challenge, recording artist, Mr. Lio Rush. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. No, thank you for having me on. I'm happy with what's currently going on, and I know you named some things that I've done in the past, but I'm looking forward to talk about what some things that I currently have going on.
That's great. Well, I mean, to start off though, man, like when I say all that, you hear WWE, AEW, Challenge, recording artist. You got an album coming out soon. Like, what do you think of? Like, what goes through your head when you're like, man, that's the career you've had? You're 27 years old.
I think it always. I see all of those things, and I remember all of those things that I've gone through and accomplished. In the short amount of time that I did, it seems like a blur. it seems like it's all happened so fast. I started this journey, at 18 years old, and I'm turning 28 this year. So just to look back on all of those things, but at the same time, I don't even look back on it really, because I'm always moving forward, and I like to push myself and to challenge myself and see what I could do next. So although I'm happy and I'm proud of the things that I've accomplished, I'm always looking to do something a little extra and more.
Is that where the kind of the music comes in? Is that where the album comes in? Talk about that a little bit. It's either out or coming out, correct?
It is coming out. Yeah, it's coming out in just a couple of days, June 24th. And I'm looking so much forward to people listening to this and hearing the growth in my music and just the growth, in me as a human being and as a man. So I'm super excited for the project to come out. This is something that I've been waiting for a year. I've been working on the project for about a year now, and this feels like a special time. And I'm glad that I'm able to share this project with so many of my fans. In the wrestling world or in the reality TV world, or anything else that I've done.
What is the the artistic process of putting an album together like that? I mean, for you, I mean, I know it's different for everybody. And then maybe like talk a little bit about like, is there any similarities between the art of putting an album together and having a wrestling match?
It's funny that you asked that. I don't think I've ever gotten asked that, but
yes. Okay.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's a pretty interesting question. But now that I think about it, I think it is. I like, my process has always been to, anything that I can gather, pick it up, throw it together, make a big, boulder out of it and carve out, what I want out of it. I feel like that's been my process with everything. So, even with matches, I normally like to, write down, all of the moves that I have in my repertoire and seeing if I want to, bust out a certain move for this match, or did I do this move in the last match, and just switching it up that way. But I think with my music, the process is the same, but it's a lot slower. And maybe that's just because, the nature of wrestling and the wrestling business, only having, but, so much time to really focus on your match before it actually happens. Versus, the time that you're given to create a project. I'm dissecting it and listening to every little thing in the song, for weeks or months at a time.
Right.
So I think it's a similar process, but it's just dragged out a little bit more in music.
And like the feedback, the feedback's a little bit different, right? Like when you're wrestling in front of a crowd, like you kind of get immediate feedback as to what you're doing. And like with the album, you're doing your thing, and then it comes out, and everybody hears it at once, but you can't really influence it or tweak it or change it once it's out. I mean, is that something that kind of like is hard for you to deal with coming from the wrestling world, where you get that instantaneous feedback, or do you like it or prefer it that way?
I mean, I like the feedback. I try not to read into it too much, because I want my art to be liked by me first and foremost. So I try to critique myself and give myself that feedback, or watch my match back before hearing someone else's input. So it's half and half. Sometimes I enjoy the feedback, especially if it's from my fans, my true fans, people who truly do enjoy my matches, or if it's somebody respected that I looked up to, that has a word to say about how I can fix things or do things in order to make it look that much better, or make people feel a certain kind of way. But with music, I think it's half and half too, because yes, I want people to like my music, but I make music kind of for myself, because I feel like sometimes I need that help, with me, and I feel like I could be my greatest, therapist. I think listening back to my audio, or listening back to my own thoughts, it kind of puts me in a good place, mentally, and I'm just glad that people listening to it can feel that same feeling that I get, for myself. And I'm glad that I'm able to like inspire people or motivate people in some kind of way through my lyrics. But I'm not making music so that other people can like it, if that makes sense. I'm making music for me, and in the process of that, I'm hoping that people can relate to it.
Therapeutic, kind of. It sounds like.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Interesting. So you talked a little bit about this already, but I want to ask a follow-up question on it. So when you're in a wrestling match, when you're performing out there, you're obviously looking to get a certain reaction from the audience, based on what you're doing and what your opponent's doing in the match and story you're telling. What do you look for in the audience in terms of a reaction in the moment to kind of like let you know that you're on the right track or on the wrong track and you have to pivot? Is it just volume, or are there other things that as a professional you're in there looking for specifically? Like I'm looking for this reaction, or I kind of want to be a little quiet here. Like, talk through that a little bit, because hearing you talk about the art of your music, I'd really like to hear how you construct your matches and then take that instant feedback from the audience and use it.
Yeah, I really try to get people's eyes. I mean, the eyes are the first thing that I look at, like in the crowd, and I want to make sure that I'm connecting with people through their eyes. I feel like if somebody's talking to somebody else, or if somebody is on their phones, then they're not really paying attention. And sometimes I don't even think that it has to do with like the noise volume in in the arena. And I feel like a lot of people might be able to attest to that, with watching New Japan Pro Wrestling. Those arenas aren't really the loudest, the entire time the show is going on. People start to come up and build with excitement when the action gets picked up, or if a certain facial expression was made. I kind of look at the audience as a choir, and I'm controlling the choir, and I like to connect people with on a more of like an emotional level, and I try to make sure that my selling is appropriate and believable, and making it seem like, it really hurts, and in most cases it does. So but I want people to feel that. I don't want them to just see that I'm hurt. I want them to be able to imagine if they were the ones who got put in that position. So yeah, I'm always looking for for eyes in the crowd, and really trying to connect with those eyes on a deeper emotional level.
That's super interesting, because you hear a lot, and not that it's not true, but you hear a lot about, oh, well, I'm looking for that sound, I'm looking for the sound. And if the sound's loud, whether it's boos, cheers, whatever, it's good. And the eyes, I think that's so unique, but also like spot on. Cause like, that's where you can, cause like when you're in the audience looking at your eyes, like you tell a story with your eyes too, with the selling. And so that's a really interesting, that's an interesting nuance for sure.
No, yeah, for sure. I truly believe, if you got the eyes, then you've got the attention, and you're in control. I feel like the eyes is a powerful thing. So you can make people feel, however you want them to feel with just looking in their eyes.
Interesting. So listen, like the list grows every day, but early on, you were one of the few talents that worked for both WWE and AEW. And I'd love to hear kind of like your take on what are some of the differences there. I mean, they're both big companies. They both have national exposure on major cable networks. But were there any stark differences, like working for one as opposed to working for the other?
I think with me paying attention to the audience so much, obviously there were like some similarities. They're both in arenas. They're they're both wrestlers. It's all the same. We're all in the same business, in the same industry. But one thing that I feel like I definitely picked out on, with me paying attention to the crowd and wanting to connect with people like that, I didn't see as many kids in the audience. I think that was the biggest. That was the biggest difference for me. And I don't really know what that changes in terms of my approach on being an entertainer. I don't really want it to change all that much. Whoever I am, I just want to be that person, regardless if there's kids in the crowd or if there's, just adults in the crowd. But yeah, I think the age differences were definitely
interesting. And then from a backstage perspective, like, did you find that different from like just the people? A lot of the people, obviously.
Yeah, like I said, I feel like we're all in the same business and in the same industry, and the same kind of types of personalities and characters and stuff like that. So there weren't any differences. To me, it's always been the same, because I'm always worried about and focused on what I have going on. So sure. I'm kind of a head down kind of person. Like, I don't tend to, and involve myself in the noise or anything, surrounding me. But yeah, I don't think there were any, differences, backstage, especially with you're seeing the same faces, swap,
right? Sure.
So it's all the same.
Yeah. Well, when you look back on your WWE time, you were able to have some some really great matches. You had time on Monday Night Raw. Like, do you look back at that run? I'm assuming you look back on it pretty fondly, given like the body of work from an in-ring perspective, and then getting to really work with Bobby Lashley. I mean, talk about that a little bit too. But I'm just curious as to, like, now that you're a couple years removed, like what lens you look back on that run with.
One, I'm proud of that run. I think I did something pretty special with my time there. I think a lot of people who look up to me sees it as inspiring in a lot of ways. I definitely think it was a groundbreaking run, and I know that there might not be people out there who see it the same way, but I definitely feel like, with everything I've accomplished, I've not fully opened the door, but at least cracked it and allowed for other people to fully open that door. I think I've contributed in a lot of positive ways, and I accomplished a goal and a dream of mine ever since I was little, and being able to win the cruiserweight title, that was a bucket list for sure. And being able to be on Raw and SmackDown and 205 Live. There wasn't 205 Live when I was a kid, so I'm glad that I was able to. I grew up wanting to be on Raw and SmackDown, and I got to be on Raw, SmackDown, NXT, 205 Live, and so much more. So I definitely exceeded my expectations when it came to things that I wanted to accomplish with my career in WWE. And I'm proud of that.
That's great. Who are some of your favorite opponents? Maybe not just in WWE, but just in general that you've worked throughout, your nearly 10-year career now. You've got a lot of them.
Yeah. No, I enjoy every match that I'm in. First, I enjoy every opponent, because it's always something new and different. It would suck if every wrestler that I wrestled was the same wrestler. So I enjoy having their styles to work with to better showcase what I can do, and vice versa. So, but some people that I definitely remember, and these are things that I feel like touched the crowd, like on an emotional level. I always enjoy my matches with Joey Janela, Angel Garza on NXT. I had some multi-man matches on my 205 Live run that were really cool and good, and being able to perform in my hometown in DC. Got to wrestle Finn on Raw, which I was a huge fan of Finn. When I was on the independent scene and looking at his run in New Japan and seeing him come up through NXT and stuff like that. So I was glad that I was able to do that. And obviously just being a fan of a longtime fan of WWE and knowing who Bobby was and being able to do stuff with Bobby. It was a crazy run, and it was cool. And it was, I was young and I was doing something that hasn't been seen before. I was a 22-year-old black kid being a manager and a mouthpiece for a WWE future Hall of Famer. So I'm proud of what I've accomplished in WWE for sure.
You mentioned styles, and I want to dig into that, and then ask you more about the album here. So like when you're putting your matches together, whether it's in WWE or something on the independent scene with whoever, like what kind of like artistic prep do you do ahead of time? Like, is it you walk into a show and you know who you're working, and so you just kind of connect with them, figure out what you want to do and go, or is it more like, all right, we're going to get in the ring and we're going to actually, like, walk the match out, or maybe rehearse a bit. What is that process like? Because on the independents in particular, you work with different promotions that are different, that are rooted in different styles. You're working opponents that are different styles. I mean, how does that gelling process happen so quick?
Yeah, I think I've always had a very consistent artistic approach to, you know, any match that I go into, and it's cool because nobody's ever asked me that question either. But I always like to be in the building, and kind of scoping out the entire building from different perspectives. And the ring is the last place that I like going.
Okay.
I like sitting up in the stands. I like walking around in the hallways. I like, you know, sitting front row. I like sitting all the way in the back. I like standing on the ramps. I like standing by the commentary table. And the ring is the last place that I touch. And then when I get in the ring, I'm always in, you know, like a deep stretch, and really, you know, feeling out the energy of the entire building, and you know, preparing myself mentally before I start doing things physical in the ring. So yeah, it's a pretty like to myself inner like process that I like going through, that, you know, helps me get ready for matches. I know a lot of people have different approaches. A lot of people like, you know, listening to music. I can't listen to music. There's no way I could, you know, listen to music. I feel like I wouldn't be able to like calm down,
Yeah.
or slow my heart rate down a little bit. I feel like I'd just be hyperventilating.
Right.
But yeah, that's normally my approach to you know, getting myself prepared for a match.
Interesting. Well, man, thank you so much for the time, Leo. Thank you for or just congrats on all the success. And where can everybody find your album? When can they find it? Just take a minute here and plug that. I think all the listeners and viewers are going to want to know kind of where they can get that thing.
For sure. So yeah, I have an EP coming out June 24th called Not Found 2. It's my first project that I'm putting out through a label with Thump Records, Universal, and Virgin. That, like I said, that'll be available June 24th. You can stream and download it on all platforms. If you want to know more about the project itself or anything related to the project as far as events, or updates or track list or anything, you can head on over to liorush.com, where you can find my YouTube channel as well, and all of my social media accounts like Twitter, Instagram, and stuff like that. So yeah, Not Found 2, June 24th, and I can't wait for you guys to hear what I've been working on for the past year. So yeah.
Awesome. Lio Rush, everybody, thank you so much. Get out and give that album a shot. Leo, thank you. Appreciate it. And let's do this again soon. Great conversation. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.